That's going in the intro.
What?
Just what we just did there.
It's our Bachelor Party.
Yeah, that is very true.
Fire shot.
Can I interest you in a slice of beef jerky and a page out of my dad's Playboy?
You want to do the intro?
And now, for two guys who think they have something to say to the world, here's Natty Ice and Wise Kai.
Welcome to North by Nowhere, FDA regulated since 1983. So this is the second episode that we've done today. So if we sound a little bit dead, it's because my bachelor party was last night. Mm-hmm. And
we drank.
Yeah, we drank a bit and did some stuff, and then did more and drank more, and now we're here.
This started from the bottom, went back to the bottom.
Yep. So
it was a good night.
Yeah, it was a good night. I feel like that's what we should talk about first.
Sure. Yeah, it was hosted by your brother Ice. I don't know. We don't have a nickname for him yet.
Yeah.
But no, it was pretty good. The hell we started? Where's Beer Hall?
Yeah, we started at the greatest eating establishment in Fargo, North Dakota. Yeah.
We've been there quite often.
Yep. But it's basically just a sausage parlor, which, I mean, sounds a little bit homoerotic, but
it was a sausage fest.
It was. It's okay.
Yeah. Worst Beer Hall because they specialize in bratwurst, but they also sell some other stuff. It's heavily German.
Yep.
Which is always great food. Yeah. So are we.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good time.
I had a ham sandwich.
Which is weird at a place that is, worst
the ham was
beer hall.
It was choice.
I hear you.
The food they serve there, they serve it well.
Uh-huh.
But
yeah, so that was a good time. Had a couple beers there, and then we went to the golf place, virtual golf place.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know about for a Wise Guy over here, he didn't golf, but
I didn't have any. I'm left-handed. I didn't have any clubs.
I suppose.
I could have done it right-handed, but
that would have been even more comical, probably.
It was fun just watching.
So yeah, we got to the virtual golf place, and really, it was comical for all involved. I mean, my dad, who was with for the whole thing,
cranking ball after ball,
and he's a pretty good golfer. But there was even some shots that he did that were just bad.
Yeah,
I think it's because it's virtual.
Sure.
It was fun though. Mm-hmm. It was a good time, and they had pretty good beer special going on.
And an overzealous bartender, though.
Yeah,
he thought he was funnier than he was.
Yep, he thought he was hilarious. So my brother is very much a cider drinker.
Yeah,
and every single time that he brought my brother his drink, he said, "So who ordered the pussy beer?" And my brother gets a little angry. Usually
when he's insulted.
Yeah, when he's insulted.
Weird, right?
Yeah. And I could have sworn that he was going to take that guy's head off, but I guess
he was just making lame jokes.
Yeah.
It was like, you ever meet those people that when they say something, they just have a laugh track in their head?
Yeah, they're like, "Oh my God, that was so funny.
Nailed it. I should go on tour."
Yeah.
But, it was pretty good. Laughing at everybody who was just hitting the balls around.
Oh yeah.
At a certain point, everybody got to it. It was just like, put the ball down, hit it.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to aim.
I mean, the first hole that I did, I ended up getting 10 over on just that hole because
that's the limit.
Yeah. And that's the limit. So I just had to automatically concede the first hole. And so of course I'm thinking, well, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
But it actually turned out to be not too bad. That was just like one of those things you hit into the trees and it's impossible to hit out because you have to kind of computerize where you're aiming and it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work.
I wonder what the technology is for that because we obviously saw that it tracks where your ball is as part of the, there's a light that shines down. And so I wonder if it just tracks it from the moment you hit it out to where it goes out of that circle of light. Or if it tracks it all the way to when it hits the screen.
I'm not sure. It is kind of interesting to think about, though. You can tell that they're Windows machines that it all runs off of because of the little loading circle.
Logo.
Yeah. But
they also had a shooting game, and I didn't even know that until we were about to leave.
You know what? I actually looked on their website earlier on my phone, And yeah, there's a full on hunting game that you can do.
Is it more expensive?
No, I think it's about the same.
Oh.
But we're gonna have to go back there.
Oh, definitely.
I also learned that
it's a bar too.
Yeah,
so.
they rent clubs for one.
Oh, really?
And they have righty and lefty. And then on top of that, right now there's a special going on to where you pay $50 and you get 30 days of unlimited golf.
Oh, really?
So basically, you can go whenever you want. You
They
have to be open, I guess. But yeah.
No.
Anyway, so after the virtual golf place, I drank a substantial amount of beer there.
There was a lot of stuff happening. A lot of liquid.
They had a good beer special going on, so I just had to keep drinking it.
What was it? It was like $5 for a green cup.
$5 for the cup, yeah, and then $2 to refill
That's
it.
not bad.
Which is
domestics.
Yeah. Well, that's fine for me. Especially, I had all intentions of drinking a lot of beer last night, so.
If you're drinking to have a good time, then you don't have to go expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was good, and then we went downtown, and it's graduation weekend here, and it was just insane.
My gosh, darn dang.
Yep,
there were so many people out there.
Yeah, we go to this one bar usually every single time when we're down there, and
We're
there
not
was
going to name it
just
unless they endorse us.
so many people there. I mean, you were basically bumping into anybody with
I was
any step
uncomfortable.
that you took. Yeah.
I was very uncomfortable.
Yep.
There's something about being in a public space and my back is not against the wall.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I get really itchy. But there was way too many people everywhere. And when it gets to be that point, it's rarely any fun because you can't hear anybody talking
that's
unless
true.
you're shouting the whole
And
time.
that's kind of my problem with bars in general in this town is there's not a bar that there's not a good hangout bar in this town, really.
It's all loud.
Yep. It's all loud party bars.
The closest we get to is probably our favorite, and it's an old folks bar.
Yeah, but even last night that place was really loud.
It was
every time on the weekend.
It was
really loud.
It was busy for what that bar usually is. But we still had a place to sit down, which was really nice.
And it was fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The last place we went to, they make these, like the old freezer pops that you would get.
As a kid.
As a kid. Yeah, they make those.
Or as an adult.
But they're injected with alcohol.
Vodka,
so
I think.
We had a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
One of my friends kept giving my brother money to go buy more. And every single time my brother would come back
with 10.
Yeah, he'd have 10. So like 10 for $8 or something like that.
Yeah. We're not talking about like 15, 20 minutes past. We're talking about as soon as he was done with it, he just went up and got more.
Yep, fine. Time to get more. Yeah, so that was a good time.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very good time when I got home, but that's okay. That's what it was for.
Little pukey.
By the time this episode airs,
Yeah.
I will probably be a week away from getting married, or I'll be married already. I'll be married already. So yeah, so we're recording this one.
This one is going to be your actual marriage weekend.
Okay. Yep. So we're recording it 2 weeks in advance right now.
Yep. So
2 weeks from now, I'll be on my way actually, I'll probably already be in Minneapolis, and then we're taking off for Jamaica.
Yep.
On that Monday afterwards. So, yep. So you guys will be listening to this, and I'll be on the beach. So,
whatever. Sipping Mai Tais.
I don't know about Mai Tais. Whatever.
Some sort of beer.
Okay. So one thing I'm going to say about bachelor parties.
Oh, okay. You don't need.
And I also don't understand about them.
You don't need boobs. Like
What? No?
like strip clubs and stuff.
Well, no. I mean, there is that whole
Okay,
thing.
that's where I was going with it.
No. Okay. Save that.
Okay, say
Okay. All right. So anyway, one of the things I don't understand about bachelor parties is that really it's celebrating the exact same thing as a bachelorette party. Yet those bachelorette parties are like way more grandiose than a bachelor party ever is.
Yeah, they really are. Which is, do you think that took a turn somewhere?
I don't know.
Because usually it was a bachelor party that was all
Yep. And to me,
making
it's
fireworks.
It's kind of like, I don't know if I want it to be that way.
Oh, really?
But I guess what kind of really bothers me is, other than the fact that I can't talk, is that, when you're a bachelorette and people know that you're a bachelorette, you just get shots and drinks bought for you the entire night.
Yeah, that's because they're wearing that stupid sash
and
and tiara.
And then there's plenty of people that are trying to get with them and this and that.
You get 30 other girls around you going,
It's our bachelor party.
Yeah, that is very true.
Buy her a shot.
And the other thing that I don't understand is that women at their bachelorette parties will like buy candy or suckers or something like that and then sell it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if a guy
did
were to
that,
try
yeah.
to sell suckers. I mean,
It'd have to be something else like beef jerky.
yeah, they would just look at you like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Or why are you creeping on me right now?
Beef jerky and Maxim magazines.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I interest you in a slice of beef jerky and a page out of my dad's Playboy?
1978 is vintage.
Vintage. Yeah. So what were you going to say?
But no, I was just saying. Usually, the stereotype with bachelor parties is you either hire a stripper at your house or you go to a strip club, and get the bachelor lap dance, which is fine and good if you choose to do that.
Yeah,
it's
if
all
you're
about
into
what you're
that type of thing.
But you got to remember that the bachelor party is for the bachelor. So if he's not into that, then you don't need to force him to do it.
And
you can have just as much fun doing whatever he wants to do.
And I, truthfully, for one, was pretty glad we didn't end up
Yeah.
at the strip club last night. But just whatever.
I
I
mean,
don't care.
It's a bar to me.
Yeah,
with,
really is.
Topless ladies, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's but yeah, I mean, a bachelor party should be whatever the bachelor decides it should be.
And I had a good one, so
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good about
Yeah,
it.
props to your brother for putting on
it was a good time.
Good time. But we should get right into it. We didn't do
That's
it.
all I have to say about that.
Anyway, let's move on to the reason we're doing this one as purely opinion show is because it is going to be 2 weeks before you guys hear this. But we're going to do our top 5 favorite books.
What?
I'll just edit this out, but
No, you're fine. Just keep going.
just keep going.
I just had to get some water. Leave me alone.
It was like, as I'm talking, you're just
know.
getting up like,
sorry.
well, we'll see you later. I'll just leave you here with
Have
all of
fun
our,
with the rest of the
all
show.
of our listeners. Improv. Just vamp. Vamp.
Play me off, Johnny.
But, yeah, I'll start. I'll just get right into it.
Yeah, sounds good.
These are solely my opinions. You're welcome to have your own. There's not going to be any Twilight or
50 Shades.
50 Shades or Harry Potter for me anyway. I don't know
Harry.
if they made it onto yours.
Nope.
So that's going to make some people mad, but that's fine.
Whatever.
My number 5 is the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown.
So are we going from worst to best?
Yeah, I
Okay.
am. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
I'll do the same then.
So that's low on my list of 5, but it's still on there. It doesn't really need a synopsis. I feel I wrote little synopsis for synopsis.
Synopses.
Synopses. Okay.
I bet. I don't know.
But this one doesn't really need it because of all the craze
Yeah,
it
that's
got
true.
back in the day. But it is 3 parts mystery, 1 part thriller, and it might be oversaturated by now with its craze long gone and the Tom Hanks movie and all that. But I lost my spot. I wrote a little script, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. It does make it onto the list because it was the very first book I read in a weekend. Like,
Oh, you read the entire thing in a weekend. Yeah.
yeah, and if anybody out there wants to know my reading habits, it's that I like to take my time.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, I often reread chapters just to make sure I didn't miss any details.
It's actually the reason I'm not very good at libraries.
yeah, exactly.
I don't like having a due date.
Oh yeah. Even though usually the overdue date is like 10 cents or something.
Yeah.
Charge
still.
or whatever. But yeah, I like to get all the details in there, and I like it when books try to throw me twists, but they'll do it because you were supposed to miss a detail back there or overlook it. And when I catch it, I feel kind of proud of myself and stuff like that. But I didn't do that with this book because his pacing is so it's beyond.
I didn't read those ones.
You didn't?
No.
Oh, you'll
probably
get hooked.
should.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
get hooked because at the end of every chapter, you're just like, I gotta know. I gotta
That's
stay
how I-
up till 3 reading
That's
this.
how I was with a few of the ones that are on my list too.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why it got the
Yep.
craze it
Oh,
did
yeah.
because it was really really good.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and the other reason is that everybody loves conspiracy. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just simply for entertainment, and in your mind it's fictional, you still look at it because this was all about the Catholic churches. You still look at something as old as that is as an institution. Go, yeah, that could be. Let's entertain that thought, and you really get hooked on the opinion, or quote unquote fact, whatever you believe. But
Yep.
yeah, so that was my number 5.
So that was your number 5. All right. Well, are we gonna? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, back and forth.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
my number 5 is a book that's called Level 26 Dash Dark Origins.
Okay.
Okay.
I was gonna. Is that the one with the videos?
Yes.
That coincide? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a book by a guy named Anthony Zoiker. I believe that's how you say his last name.
That's a funny name.
He is the creator of CSI.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So
that.
this was his big book debut.
Okay. Was this
after,
before?
No,
Oh,
this
after?
was after.
Okay.
After all the success. It's just a good horror / serial killer book.
Yeah.
You know, which isn't really my style.
Sure.
But it was very crazy. I mean, the main bad guy is some crazy dude that dresses up in latex.
Yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
You were like, watch this video because this goes with my book, and
that
was
pretty crazy.
good.
So it's different. Like what we're saying, they had these little video episodes that were online after every chapter that you read, and it was kind of cool, kind of annoying. You know, it's not like you really missed anything if you didn't look at or watch them, but they did add some fun. The acting was terrible, but you know, it was okay.
It's different.
It was cool. It was a cool book.
It's pretty innovative.
But basically, it was really suspenseful. And, I'm actually kind of surprised that this hasn't been made into like a movie
Oh,
yet.
yeah.
Because it seems like that type of thing. Is that it's called Level 26 because they say that a typical serial killer is one of 25 levels of insane.
Oh.
There's 25 different levels of insanity, apparently. And then there's the 26th, which nobody has ever been before.
Yeah.
And they go through it in the book. And I mean, I really do recommend this book. It's good. But yeah, it's basically the most insane that you could possibly ever see or think of. Yeah. And like I said, the main bad guy is level 26.
Level 26 crazy.
Yep. It's a good book.
Like my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. I definitely say that you should, I definitely say you should read that one. It's a good one. That's it.
That's it?
That's the one.
All right. See you next week.
Okay.
No, number 4 for mine is, I put 3 of them together because they're short stories.
Okay.
The Call of Cthulhu, Dagon, and Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah.
He was posthumously famous horror fiction writer. He wasn't really famous when he was writing these. It was only afterwards. He died in poverty. Like, how bad does that suck?
That does suck.
Yeah, and now you can't.
He'd be like a gazillionaire. A gazillionaire.
Gazillions. But his grasp of the human subconscious was supreme. Like, take his work in Dagon. It's a short story, which is more of a fever dream than anything. And he had a nightmare and woke up and wrote this story. That's basically what happened. It's about a World War I captive who escapes capture on a lifeboat and ends up in a land that he thinks was lying at the bottom of the sea, but brought up to the surface by a volcanic upheaval. The land is described as, quote, a slimy expanse of hellish black mire which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from nasty mud and unending plain. Like, I love his style of writing. But from there, he finds a monolith of the old god Dagon, and his contact with it proves to be undoing, because after he's rescued and returned to civilization, he commits suicide from the visions he has daily. And then the Rats in the Walls. It's about a man returning to Europe from America to reclaim his family's name and castle. And I won't give away a lot of the story. And I almost don't want to say the rest because it's a giant plot twist, but just to show you how horrific his writing was. The main character finds out that his family owned pretty much a subterranean town where they fed on humans, and they actually had human farms where they would raise people to be eaten.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. And of course, we all know, or you should know, the Call of Cthulhu is about basically people worshiping an old god of extraterrestrial origins and the craziness that goes on with their rituals and whatnot, murdering people and stuff like that. And then you actually get a little taste of the monster at the end, and a lot of people die, and it's very disturbing.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I don't want to give away, but I just love that whole reaching to the darkness of other people's subconscious writing that he did. And he really knows what he's talking about too, because I think his father was committed to an insane asylum, and his mother was an overbearing psychotic woman. So he's got his background out for him. But
So do you like Edgar Allan Poe too then?
oh yeah,
Yeah, me too.
He was inspired by Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Or the other way around. Who came first?
I would assume Lovecraft came first. I would think.
I don't know.
I'm not sure either.
I'm failing the literary world right now, but one of them inspired the other ones, and
Yeah.
for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my number 4.
So my number 4 is A Wrinkle in Time by
Ooh, yeah.
Madeleine L'Engle.
I've heard a lot about that book.
It's the first sci-fi book I ever read.
Yeah.
It's just such a great premise for a book because, it's geared toward younger adults.
Sure.
So they make basically all the sci-fi stuff within it understandable for that age.
Yeah.
But it's such a cool idea for a book because, you're following this family who's like the girl is a misfit and she's got this guy friend who shouldn't really like her, but does. And, all this stuff. So it's very, very teen, you know.
Yeah.
But they're out in a storm and they have to stop at their neighbor's house, and their neighbor's house is or the neighbor ladies are all weird that live there. And, and they end up going back, and because the main thing is their dad is gone.
Sure.
And
Like dad or just gone?
well, they don't know where he's at
Oh.
because their mom won't say. Well, these old ladies take them to the planet that their dad is on. And that's the whole premise of the book, is them saving their dad from this planet. It's a great book.
Sure. It's sort of an
Good.
adventure.
Yes.
Okay.
Very, very adventurous. But the lady really had an imagination
Oh yeah.
for being somebody who only wrote so many books. But I think that's actually the beginning of a trilogy. Yeah, it is. Because then there's A Wind in the Door and A Swiftly Tilting Planet.
Oh.
And
Just a fantastical mind.
yes.
Yeah, I love those writers.
Yep. I mean, there's so much stuff in that book that you're like, how did she think of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great book.
What drugs was she on? But normally they're not.
No, not at all.
It's just
But like I said, it's like the perfect first sci-fi book for somebody who, like me, when I have a kid and they're getting to a reading age where they want what's a good book to read?
Yeah.
I'll definitely give them my
Throw that
copy
at
of
'em.
A Wrinkle in Time. 'Cause
Sure.
it's like, great book.
Yeah.
Great book.
Great for younger generations.
Yes. That's that.
Or older. I mean,
Or
it
older.
doesn't
I'd read
matter.
it again. I'd be fine with
Just
it.
because something's in the young teens section doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's off limits.
Yep.
Was that?
That's it.
Okay, cool. Number 3 is Aragon by Christopher.
I never read those. My brother really liked those ones though.
Yeah, they're great. It's a high fantasy adventure. And the first book is really kind of a coming of age tale. Aragon is 15 in a quiet little town, and he lives pretty much in poverty with his uncle and cousin. And from there, he finds a dragon egg. It pretty much finds him, but that's all described in the story.
Yeah.
And of course, kind of hijinks ensue as he tries to take care of this dragon egg and then the freshly hatched dragon without anybody finding out and stuff like that. And you just get a real sense of an origin story, a true origin story for a brand new world, a brand new hero that has been introduced. And you later find out that you later see him become a dragon rider and is kind of a mythical warrior type, and learn that within this world that he lives in, there were many dragon riders that were kind of a worldly police force and, kept a lot of peace in the land until the evil, Lord kind of came into play. Mm-hmm. And then that pretty much sets up the whole story for him going and vanquishing and, stuff like that. And then spans over 4 books. But the first one was really good. And, it's entertaining. And even though it doesn't have a lot of innovation, there's a lot of cliches used. There's a lot of hero archetypes that are used. Still, the characters are very, very lovable. You can pull out favorites, even if it's not the main character itself. And, so what it does really, really well. And you have to take into account the kid was 15 when he wrote the book.
That's right.
Yep.
That's what it was.
Yeah, he was 15 when he wrote the first draft, and I think 16 when he revised it. And then I think it came out when he was either 17 or 18 or 19, one of those. I know it was before 20. But, yeah, so you take into account how young he was when he wrote it, and it's really fantastic, especially from the character point of view, how every character has a set personality and also room for development, which he does develop within the book itself. So, yeah, it's pretty good. And that's all. What's your third?
My third is The Gunslinger, which is the first book of the
Gunslinger.
The first book of the Dark Tower series by Stephen King.
I heard those are good.
The first one is fantastic. It basically, dog. I don't know if you can hear the dog barking, but it's very half-hearted, and he clearly doesn't care that much about protecting us. Anyway, it gets you introduced to all the people that are going to be with you on this journey.
Sure.
But I think the thing I like the most about this first book is that the main character, his name is Roland. He's really relatable.
That's a good name.
Roland is good name, but he's just really relatable.
Yeah.
And everything that he does, everything that he says, like every really internal decision that he makes, you just kind of feel like, yeah, this is a really human character.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Which is nice sometimes.
Not completely morally right all
and
the time.
I am not a Stephen King fan
Sure.
at all. So this was different in the fact that I actually liked it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good story. Now I've
Sure.
heard that as they go on, they kind of drag and they're not very good. And there's
usually what happens.
Well, there's 7 books in the series. I mean, that gets to be a lot. And, I've tried reading the second one. I got like halfway through it and I was like, I just can't do this anymore.
Sometimes the first in the series is all you get.
And
to.
it's
fine.
It's great.
Yeah. Because a lot of times,
that's okay.
But a lot of times I think authors will write one book in the series and not expect it to go on until people love it, and then they'll continue. And so when you have the first book in the series, you have an immediate open to close point. Whereas you see other parts in this, the new series that they create, they leave stuff open for more.
See, and these were the first books
sequels.
that Stephen King ever wrote.
Oh, were they?
Yep, they were. He wrote them while he was in college.
Okay.
Yeah, and he should have stuck with this style of writing, truthfully, because they're great.
He's a workaholic, though.
He is.
That guy.
Yep.
Produces more books than cheese.
Yeah, like I said, though, it's one of those that I tried to read the sequel and I couldn't get through. But it's one of those post-apocalyptic story type of deals. Yeah,
those are good.
That's good. It's another one I would really highly recommend.
Yeah.
Yes. Which, I mean, these are my top 5. So,
of
course,
really,
I'm just going to say that you
saying.
should probably read all of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Should we do a challenge? Should we read one book from each other's list?
Sure.
Okay.
Works.
We'll have to pick.
Yeah.
We'll do that later.
Yep.
My number 2 is Cain by James Byron Huggins.
Okay.
This book is a thriller, and I put it on here because it's the second book I ever read on my own.
Yep.
Without a teacher trying to cram literacy down my throat. As teachers need to do, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it's understandable, but
that's the part. I'm going to get off topic, but that's the part that kind of sucks about school is that it kills a lot of students want to read, because you have to go home and you have to read your textbook, which is a lot of text. And so after that, and then you're doing homework and all that stuff, and very few students want to read for fun because they're so burnt out by reading in the classroom, going home and reading some more about just boring stuff. That was my problem anyway.
Well, and that's one of those things, like the books that we read when I was in high school, I don't even remember.
Yeah. And
I know one of them was To Kill a Mockingbird.
Sure,
I don't even think that's a good book.
No, it's they're safe.
Yeah.
They're safe teaching material.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah. And I'm not ragging on teachers at all, but if they were to have you read a book that wasn't on this preferred list, they'd get in a lot of trouble.
Probably would,
I would imagine. But because that's what freedom's about.
Oh, yeah, government,
Yeah. So anyway, number 2, Cain by James Byron Huggins. It's a thriller and a great read. As long as you don't read too much into it, because there's a whole lot of, well, why couldn't they just do this? It opens up with the government trying to create a super soldier. Go figure. but they create a monster instead. They build a modern day Frankenstein pretty much, but increase everything about him. His bone density, the toughness of his skin, his muscle size. I think he's like probably 8 foot, 400, 500 pounds, something like that. I could be wrong about that. I haven't read it in a long time, but the interesting thing about it are 2 parts. In order to keep up this huge size and his metabolic rate, he needs to drink blood. So he's kind of a giant vampire monster. The second thing is that it's kind of a pseudo-religious book too, because it delves into the Jewish mythology of golems, and what those were created bodies that were used to protect innocent people. However, within the mythos, evil spirits could inhabit those bodies. So what happens here is a spirit as old as the earth itself pretty much inhabits this. They hinted at being the devil himself, Satan, but I don't think they actually say. But anyways, he's very powerful and very upset at the world. Oh, so they go to an outcast soldier, again another archetype. Yep. His name is Solomon. And he's been one of those that's, haunted by his past of what he's done in these wars he's been in and stuff like that. But he's still like the best soldier they have, that whole archetype thing going on. And then from there, it's just kind of a thriller but instead of the monster chasing them, they're chasing the monster. Okay. Because if the monster, and this is what I didn't explain, if the monster gets a hold of one of the lead scientist's daughter, who the original blood was used to create him, if he drinks her blood, then he's complete and he doesn't have to drink anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's why they're hunting him, so that they don't kill this girl's daughter. But it's just a fun thriller, and it kind of leaves you on the edge of your seat. You want to know more. And one of the coolest scenes in this book, I don't know if you call it a scene. Coolest part in this book is that they're running through, and there's this nun trying to help him slow this monster down, and he comes up upon the nun. The beast comes up upon the nun, and the nun douses him with a liquid. And then the beast smirks up and looks at her and asks, "Holy water, sister?" And the nun replies, "Coldly, gasoline." And she throws a match on him. It was so cool. But yeah, so if you're looking for, I don't know, just something to entertain yourself with, definitely pick up this book. Cool. Yeah.
What are we on, number 2?
Yep.
It's called Black by Ted Decker.
Yeah.
It was kind of the first adult,
I remember that,
first adult sci-fi that I ever read, I guess.
Sure.
It's also like it's got some religious overtones and everything too, which, whatever. It was an entertaining book.
Whatever.
The basic premise is that when this guy falls asleep, he ends up in a different primitive world.
Ooh.
And
him or his consciousness?
Him.
Oh.
I mean, he's there. He's still sleeping in the one world.
Okay.
But he's fully physical in everything in the other world. Oh. He exists as himself.
Was it kind of like that? Wasn't there a show that did that? It was like in one reality, he had his wife was still alive. And then when he went to bed, he woke up in another reality where his son was still alive.
Well, I don't
because
know.
of some, okay.
I don't know.
If you know what the heck I'm talking about, drop it in the comments.
Yeah, really.
But anyway.
So it's ended up being kind of like a suspense type of book because it gets to a point where there's things going on in each world that he needs to be there for, but he can't be existing in both worlds at the same time.
Okay.
So it's a really cool premise for a book, honestly. And he eventually kind of finds out that things are pretty related in these worlds, even though they're 2 very clear, distinct, different worlds.
Okay.
So it's cool. You can also tell that like a lot of thought went into this novel, because even like these creatures that don't make any sense, you feel like you know exactly what they look like.
Oh.
And then one of the things,
like, you could just envision them in your mind?
Yeah, envision them in your mind.
Okay.
And then
that's just good writing then.
Yep. And then what I'm getting at kind of is that they made graphic novels of these.
Oh.
And then you kind of get to see what these creatures look like
the same?
It's pretty much the same.
Pretty similar.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Huh.
But one of the things about this dream world that he wakes up in is they have these lakes,
Yeah.
and their religion says that you have to bathe in these lakes once a day.
Ooh.
And basically, if you don't bathe in these lakes once a day, you get some sort of like sickness type of deal.
Okay.
Your skin starts cracking and peeling and this and that. And eventually, because it's part of a series,
Yeah.
eventually as the series goes on, these lakes dry up.
Oh,
And
that's not good.
Yeah. And it's another one of those series that, I mean, the books got progressively worse as they went on,
yeah,
but
it just went on too long.
I read all 4 of them. I had to. But yeah, it's a good book. And if you like it, you're going to like the other 3.
Yeah.
It's just that you kind of have to expect them to not be as good.
Sure.
And the crazy thing about these is that there's actually another trilogy by the same author that, end up showing up in these books.
Oh,
It's like the whole thing,
was that the
whole
book
hierarchy.
you had me read?
I think so. So like the whole hierarchy is like this books of history
Right.
things. And then there's these 3 stories within these.
That's pretty ambitious.
It
as
really
as
is.
a writer.
Yeah. And then,
Awesome, though,
and then
yeah.
within those 3 series, there's 3 books in one, 4 books in another, and 6 books in.
So this man has some vision, huh?
Yep. And they all eventually kind of tie together.
Wow.
They're great. I really should reread them, truthfully, because I have all 4 of them in like one volume.
Yeah.
So I really should reread them, and they're a lot of fun.
Could you imagine keeping track of all
No.
that? Like,
No,
like,
I can't.
It would probably be a beautiful mind thing where it's just strings on a wall tied
And
together.
When I get to my number 1, it's another one kind of like that. So,
yeah?
stay tuned.
Stay listening after a word from our sponsors.
So that's that.
Okay.
Good book.
So my number 1, and I kind of wrote a lot about this.
That's okay.
Okay. Is The Crystal Shard by R.A. Salvatore. It's my all-time favorite book because it was the very first book that I read without, a teacher telling me to do so. And like many of my favorite books, it's high fantasy. It's also set in the Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition world of Faerun, more aptly named Forgotten Realms. So if you pick up a book and you see that little Forgotten Realms symbol on there, you know that you're reading something about Dungeons and Dragons, which is fine. And it draws heavy inspiration from the Lord of the Rings, as most D&D settings do, with the central focus being, of course, the Crystal Shard. It's a magical sentient jewel that imbues the host with power, but also corrupts its mind for its own purpose. So kind of like the ring. The beginning of the book features a barbarian attack on the village of 10 Towns. The barbarian tribe seeing the settlers there as invaders, of course, and a venerable group of very small dwellings. It's a venerable group of very small dwellings composed of a council of 10 people. So there's 10 towns, 10 people that council, and they all control this one place called 10 Towns. In this council is a halfling named Regis, one of our heroes. He owns a small magical jewel, not the Crystal Shard, that can sway the minds of people through suggestion, so like a Jedi mind trick. And it was through this persuasion and the scouting reports of a drow named Dritz Duorden, who I will get into, that led Regis to persuade these people of 10 Towns to work with him to repel this barbarian attack. The towns were not alone, as very 2 peculiar people joined the fight. Bruner Battlehammer, a close friend of Regis, who was a dwarf, who has taken up residency in Icewind Dale and is described as gruff even for a dwarf. He's full of passion, bullheaded, but good-natured. His part in the fight is an important one because, well, more on that in a minute. The other combatant is very unlikely, very, very unlikely, if you know anything about the D&D world. His name is Dritz Duorden, and he's the flagship character of many Salvatore's later books. He's a drow, which is a dark elf, and is usually seen in the cavernous tunnels that lie underground, that lie even further underground. They're called the Underdark in this setting. And the drow are normally a very evil race.
Okay.
And this guy is not. He's trying to be morally good. This one, however, has not only turned from the darkness physically, but metaphorically as well, and he strives to do what is good in his heart. He's a stealthy figure who uses 2 scimitars for battle, has master combat prowess and a magical onyx figurine, which he can use to summon as an astral panther from its realm of existence. So immediately you get this phenomenally interesting character, right? But the focus isn't on him. During the attack, the barbarian attack, a young barbarian standard bearer by the name of Wolfgar assaults Brunner Battlehammer the dwarf, knocking him on the head with the banner itself. Well, Brunner doesn't even flinch, turns around and punches this barbarian to unconsciousness, and actually takes him as sort of a captive to work with the dwarves in the mine shafts for, I think, 5 years. But more on that later. The Battle of 10 Towns is won. An important note is that there were people kicking Dritz because he is a drow, and people don't, just distrust that. But then Brunner steps up and defends him and says, well, if it wasn't for him, we'd all be effed. Anyway, so moving on, and I'm not, I know it's kind of a long synopsis, and that's not even dealing with the Crystal Shard. That was like just the first half of the book. Yeah. Second half of the book deals with the Crystal Shard and how orcs and goblins are now going to invade all of Icewind Dale, which is where the 10 Towns is. And these heroes, which are outlined, step up to the plate. But the interesting thing about this one book is that the center was supposed to be around Wolfgar, the young barbarian. He goes off into the mines. Brunner kind of takes care of him like a son. He sees him as a father. And then he grows up to be this big, strong warrior. Brunner forges a magical weapon for him called the Aegis Fang, and everything was supposed to be about him, right? Well, everybody loved Dritz too much, and they really told Salvatore about this, and so he shifted the focus from Wolfgar in the later books to Dritz Duorden, because, Wolfgar has an interesting origin story with that whole battle scene, but here you have a normally evil-raced character trying to be good, normally in the underground, but now on the surface. So you immediately have this character that is just going to have a rough life no matter where he goes, because the drow are so rarely seen that they're almost a myth, and when people do see them, they think they're synonymous with like demons and other evil stuff like that. So, but it's a very good read. You have everything a fantasy book could want. You have these epic battles. The way he describes fight scenes in this first book is really good. You have magical weapons, magical armor, magical items. You have these characters who are very interesting, and though they're kind of stereotypical, the bull-headed dwarf, the big strong barbarian, all that stuff, they still have room for improvement, and he does that. He does a lot of character development, which is nice, and he advances the plot very, very well. Very nice as well. But it was like you were saying. His character of Dritz Duorden has been featured in so many books right now that I stopped reading them. Yeah, because they just get so oversaturated, and you can't really.
Just gets to be too much.
Yeah, and as soon as you get to a point where your character's good, and then you try to go on with that, and you lose.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of the same thing with my number one. So my number one, I had to go with a trilogy. Like, I know it's against the rules, but I had to go with...
I went with 3 books.
Yeah, I had to go with a full trilogy on this one. And they're called Mistborn.
Oh, and you were telling me about this.
Yep, they're by Brandon Sanderson, who, if you have ever heard of the big, long, epic story of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, this Brandon Sanderson guy is actually the one that Robert Jordan handpicked to write the last ones after he died. Because he was diagnosed with cancer, knew he wasn't going to be able to finish it, and he picked this guy to do so. But yeah, after he wrote those...
That'd be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of pressure. Yes. So there's 3 books in the original trilogy. They're called The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages. Incredible books.
Yeah.
Like you were saying with the Crystal Shard, the fight scenes, everything that goes into them is, you feel like you're there. You feel like you're watching a movie.
Oh, that's good.
Those
are my favorite.
They're so well described. Yeah. Everything about them. And my favorite thing, and I think what a lot of people liked about these books, because they're pretty popular. easily the best created magic system I have ever heard of.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, so it's called allomancy, and it's the ability to burn metals that you have ingested to have an effect like on your surroundings or on people.
Yeah.
So like you can push things away from you, or you can pull things to you.
Sure.
Or you can what are some of the other ones? Those are two of the ones that get used a lot.
Yeah.
And then there's one that just burns. If you burn that, it burns up every metal that's within you. So let's say you're captured by a bad guy and they know that you're an allomancer, they'd have you ingest that one and burn it.
Oh, I see.
Well, how these books work is there's two different kinds of these allomancers. There's mistings who can only burn one kind of metal.
Okay.
So they have basically one power. Then you have the Mistborn who can burn all 12 metals.
Oh.
And so they're like the big shots.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
they can do everything, and those fights are the most fun. The main character in these three is like a really strong female character, which was cool from a different perspective, just because you don't get that too often.
Right.
And she's kind of not like Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire.
Song of Ice and Fire, yeah.
She's kind of thirsty for power, Daenerys is, whereas Vin, who is the main person in these books, she doesn't want to be the hero.
Oh.
You know, she doesn't want to. It's not even that it was really thrust upon her.
Oh.
It's that she eventually just realizes that she's the one who has to do this.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't really thrust on her.
Yeah.
But it's another one of those kind of post-apocalyptic type of deals.
Sure.
Where anyway, there's like political intrigue.
Is it set in its own world?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's political intrigue, not nearly as like hard to follow as the Song of Ice and Fire books, the Game of Thrones books.
There's a lot going on in
those ones. There's just way too much going on.
That's like 90% politics, 10% fantasy.
Yep. There's not as many characters and stories overall, and it's just a lot easier to follow. You're going to be following this same group of people throughout the whole thing, which in the Game of Thrones books, you do that as well.
Until somebody dies.
Yeah, there's a lot of death in those books, but with those ones, it's like, well, this person will get an entire chapter or two or three, and you kind of just have to realize that you're eventually going to go back to the one that you wanted to continue reading about.
Yeah.
Whereas these, they kind of fit everything into a chapter.
Okay.
You know, so you're switching back and forth, yes, but it's much less wait time within them. And the thing I probably liked, you know, because Black, which I mentioned earlier, is my number 2 book. There's 4 of those, and I felt like the last book that they came out with really forced everything. Like, it was just really forced, it felt like.
Yeah.
Because they're called the Circle series, so they wanted everything to go in a complete circle.
Right.
Well, as, you know, kind of how that was forced, this one, the third one, The Hero of Ages, it very much wraps everything up.
Okay.
And it does it in a very nice way. And you can kind of see what's coming, but it's enough of like a little twist to where you just think to yourself, well, this is the coolest. The coolest way that this could have ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just great. So this Brandon Sanderson guy, he kind of like Ted Dekker on those Black books again. He wants to make this Mistborn thing. He wants it to have 3 trilogies. And within, after each trilogy, he wants to have 1 or 2 bridge novels that's going to introduce you to the next world.
Okay.
So he had these 3, and then there was another one that's called The Alloy of Law, and that's to introduce you into the next trilogy.
Sure.
And I tried to read it, and I just couldn't get into it. And
really?
I don't know if it was maybe because I was victimized by reading these 3 very long books and I did it relatively quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe I was just burned out on reading and I should go back to it, but it just wasn't as good to me. And that one's actually set more in like a Wild West, like an 1800s type of deal. That's what it's trying to get to. And then that's going to be the next world. And then after that, he wants to write like a future one that's in the space age.
Oh. Huh.
So, I mean,
pretty ambitious.
Yeah, they might be worth reading.
Sure.
If he can keep up with the ideas and everything. But
Not
if
oversaturated.
if nothing else, definitely read, the first three. After you read The Final Empire, which is the first one, or Mistborn, it's either stylized as just Mistborn because it was, the first one.
Yeah.
Or The Final Empire. Either way. You'll read the other two.
Yeah.
My boss, I told him about them. Yeah, he read all three of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
that's good.
Yeah, they're great.
That's good. Need
Great
more
books.
readers. I need to read more.
I do too. It's one of those things I have like this very distinct cycle in my life.
Yeah.
I go from, I like to read, and then I kind of get burnt out on reading, and then I start hitting my microphone.
Immediately.
Yeah. I kind of get burnt out on reading, and I get way more into video games.
Sure.
Well, then I'm like super into video games for a while, and I'm not talking like gaming. I'm just playing hockey or whatever every night. And then I kind of just get into this point where I don't want to do anything except for like be outside.
Oh, yeah.
Or, something like that. Or fish, yeah.
Gosh.
Yep. And then I eventually get back into the reading. It's like this cycle. It goes over and over in my life. And I'm more on the video game, getting pretty close to the fishing part right now.
As it warms up and becomes nicer. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm more of a video games all the time until my internet goes out, and then I'll read a book.
I'll read this book.
I can't, whatever. But I was looking through my list because I signed up for a website that's not endorsing us, and it lists for you all your books and stuff. That
Oh, okay.
You
Yep.
You can plug them.
I know which one you're talking about.
And so I was looking through my list, and I was like, man, dang, I haven't read very many.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The last thing I pushed myself to read actually was the Harry Potter, and that one. I mean, they're good. They're for younger audiences, obviously, and I'm not gonna bash on them at all. But I got burnt out, like, because I read them so fast. I was like, I just want to get through this.
And that's another one of those 7-book series.
Yeah.
I mean, you basically got to commit to it.
Yeah. So if I read like the first one when it came out, and then every subsequent one when it came out, I would have been fine because there was enough time. But burning through, it's like burning through a show on Netflix.
Well, and
a series on
I did the
Netflix.
same thing with the Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh yeah,
I tried and I tried and I tried, and I couldn't make it past Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh really? You can make it past first. I tried that with the Song of Ice and Fire, and I get about halfway, and then I put the book down for like 2 weeks, and then I'll pick it up and be like, the hell was happening?
Yep.
I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, I actually tried to do Game of Thrones in 2 different ways. The first time I tried to read it.
Oh yeah.
The second time I tried to listen to it on an audiobook.
Oh,
which
that'd be a
was
good way to go
okay.
too, yeah.
It was okay, but I feel like when you do it on audiobook, you kind of miss some stuff.
Yeah, I don't retain as much
Yeah,
information.
and my boss, that's all he does.
Audiobooks?
The only thing he does is audiobooks. But yeah,
and this podcast,
this podcast, yep. But yeah, Game of Thrones, I've tried, and I know that even if I were to finish Game of Thrones, there's no way that I could get onto the second one.
Oh yeah, it'd
be like
so long.
It'd be like one of those that you have to read one a year. Yeah.
Just listen to us talk. This book is so long.
Yeah. Then we've been talking for an hour. People
Yeah.
are probably like, God, this podcast.
This podcast is, needs to end.
Yeah.
And on that note, goodbye. No, we once again we're kind of sorry about the tiredness of our voice. We're very, very tired.
Yeah.
But we wanted to plug a show for you, so you'd have something over to when Nate's gone there, when Ice is departed. And yeah, so if you like this, enjoyed it, if you could share this on all of your social platforms, whether you're listening to on YouTube, Spreaker, iTunes, just make sure to post it somewhere so others can see it. Like it, comment on it. God, I'm tired.
Yeah. Facebook.com/North by Nowhere.
Yeah, hit the sites.
Tweet at us at North by Nowhere. Go ahead and give us some stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
We like doing these top 5 lists or something like that. Or even if you just have any type of, like actual subject to talk about. We have some friends who would just comment dumb stuff, of course, but that's kind of what we want to do with this show, because eventually, hopefully, yeah, hopefully we'll be able to talk to people eventually.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, and if you have any comments on this show or previous ones, drop them in there as well. Drop in your favorite book.
Yep,
I mean,
definitely.
we'll mention it on the show. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
I think that's it.
All right. Until next time. Bye.